Hello, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and please check my channel out for other videos about Z-World. So the last update about Twist of Fate. Pallavi curses and send Prachi out of the Kohli's house. And that update is the season finale on Z-World for this season. So the show is stopping on Z-World for now, and it will be continued later. So this will be the beginning of the brand new season. Immediately Z-World will start again. Let's start. The show takes a leap of 1 month. So 1 month later in New Delhi, Ranbir gets down from a black car and he is looking different from his usual looks. The reporters comes to him and asks if he wants to crack a big deal of the Kohli Industries. Ranbir says, I see the deal as a challenge. The reporter asks Ranbir if he bought the hotel with much money than required. Ranbir says, I gave 50% extra and says if that hotel I wanted, then I would have bought it for a double price. They ask why he wanted to buy that hotel. Ranbir says due to my stubbornness. Rhea smiles looking at his interview. She switches off the TV. Pallavi says that since Prachi left from this house, problem went away from Ranbir's life. He is doing so well for himself and says his photo comes in the newspaper and his interviews comes in the magazine. He is doing so good for himself and she feels proud of him. Pallavi says that since Siddharth left the business, Ranbir took the business to the next level and says his name is taken as a business tycoon. She says this would have happened before if that middle-class Prachi was not in his life and says my son returned to his house late. Rhea says he returned home but did not come to me. Rhea says I am waiting to marry him but he is busy and she asks when will he marry me. Pallavi says he will marry you but before that, he has to make himself become strong to forget Prachi fully. She says people take different means to overcome breakup and says he has put himself in the coal mine and doing great in his business. The guy asks Ranbir if he should arrange the party and says I knew that you will get the deal. Ranbir says I don't do party. The client tells him that they like party. Ranbir says we can keep the party but don't call me. The employee tells the client that he is like that only, not understandable. Ranbir calls the employee and asks him why he came late today and says if you come late again, then you will be fired. The employee says I know you will not fire me as my brother was your college friend and you love me. Ranbir says I don't. I love your work. Pallavi tells Rhea that if Ranbir stay busy, then he will forget Prachi. Rhea says I am worried and says you are keeping him away from Prachi but not from her memories. She says Ranbir loves Prachi a lot and says if they meet again, then he will go back to Prachi. Rhea says our servant Soni's sister Jita went to Prachi and told her that she felt bad for her for whatever happened with Prachi. She says Prachi hired Jita and says Jita doesn't work for Prachi, but she works for me. She says Jita sent me the video today. She shows the video in which Prachi is looking distressed. She says if Ranbir sees this video, then he will melt for her. At the traffic signal, Ranbir is in his car while Prachi is in the other car with Sushma. She is lost in thought. The seller knocks on the window and asks her to buy the pen. Prachi is still lost. The lady seller knocks on Ranbir's car window and asks him to buy the pen as her kids are hungry. Ranbir gives her 500 rupees and buys the pen, but he asks her to keep the pen. Rhea tells Pallavi that Ranbir will not think that she is in this condition, that her truth is out and her respect is gone, and she couldn't forget him. She says he will think that Prachi is in this condition as she went away from him. She says if he sees her, then he will hug her and their picture will come in the newspaper. Ranbir tries to look at Prachi as her Palu flies out of the car. The signal freezes and he drives off without seeing Prachi. Prachi also tries to look at him. Sushma also drives the car and says he kicked you from your life and you couldn't throw him out of your mind. It is not good to think about him all the time. Pallavi says Ranbir will never meet Prachi. Rhea says you have said this before when our marriage was fixed, but he went to Prachi. She asks what is the guarantee that this will not happen again. Pallavi says I am the guarantee and says that is why I am getting you both married. Rhea says new house door would open when old house door closes. Pallavi says I will get his divorce done. Rhea says when you talk to him about divorce, he did not return home for many days. Pallavi says but he did not go to Prachi either as he ate her. Rhea says I know and I understand that he is taking time to sign on the divorce papers. She says we will get Prachi's signature first and says I am sending the divorce paper to Prachi tomorrow. Prachi is in the room and she is devastated. She looks at Ranbir's picture in the newspaper as a successful businessman. Prachi records their moment and keeps back the newspaper. His words echo in her ears and she gets afraid and cries. Ranbir comes home and takes out his clothes from the cupboard. He thinks there is no place for her even in his imagination. Prachi cries and lies down on the bed. Ranbir also lies down on his bed. A song plays in the background. Ranbir was lying on the bed and he remembers Prachi on the bed smiling at him. He feels hot. A song plays in the background. Prachi also imagines Ranbir on her bed and switches on the light happily. They couldn't sleep and they get up. He takes out his boxing gloves and punches on the punching bag. Prachi comes to the window and looks remorseful. Ranbir thinks of his moments with Prachi and says, I don't want to think about her. She is not worth it. Soni's sister comes to Prachi's room and finds her lost. She records her video and thinks that Rhea will get happy today. Sushma comes there calling Prachi. Prachi comes out of her imagination. Sushma says, I was waiting for you. Prachi says sorry. Sushma says, don't say sorry. You haven't done anything wrong. Don't say sorry. She says, let's go and have breakfast. Prachi says, I am not hungry. Soni's sister says that she will serve the food. Sushma asks Prachi to have food in some time and says, I will go to the office and the driver will come back before the temple time. She thinks how to undo Prachi and she thinks that Pragya hears but she doesn't say, and Prachi is here and she can hear but she doesn't talk, and she asks Soni's sister Jita to pack her lunch bag and says, I will not do breakfast, and Jita goes. Sushma goes to Pragya and Abhi's room. They are still in coma and on the ventilator support. Sushma cries seeing Pragya and says, that is why I did not want you to come to India. She says, my fear was of a mother who lost one of her daughter and doesn't want to lose another daughter. Sushma says, you gave me new life. I thought God sent you on Priyanka's place. She says, your love brought you back to your husband. I would have accepted him, but I couldn't understand him. She comes to Abhi and asks if you are her husband, then why don't you protect her? Why does she have to face the troubles after meeting you? Then she stood by you and get you freed of all your bad habits. Sushma says, I have sent Pragya to save your life and you have taken her far away from me. She says she should have taken her as a husband and not like this. She says, get up Abhi and call Pragya. She says, Pragya will get up hearing you. She is such a wife who fights with everyone for you. Sushma then asks Pragya to get up and says, I cannot live without you. She cries. The lawyer comes to Sushma's house and says he wants to meet Prachi. Jita comes to Prachi and says someone came to meet you. Rhea is restless. Pallavi comes to her and asks, why are you nervous? Rhea says, what do you think? That the lawyer has reached Prachi's house by now with the divorce papers. Prachi comes to the lawyer. The lawyer introduces himself as Ranbir's lawyer. Rhea says, I don't know how Prachi will react seeing the divorce papers. The lawyer tells Prachi that Ranbir Kohli has sent divorce paper for her and needs her signature on it. Prachi is shocked. Pallavi says Prachi wants to know first if Ranbir has signed on it. When she sees the signature, then her ego will be hurt and she will sign to show that she is not hurt. Rhea asks Pallavi to talk in low tone and says Ranbir might hear. She closes the door. Pallavi says when he doesn't have time to talk to us, why will he hear us? She says you have copied Ranbir's signature very well and it looks like Ranbir's signature. The lawyer gives the divorce papers in Prachi's hand and asks her to sign wherever Ranbir has signed. Prachi recalls Ranbir's words and gets emotional. She drops the file on the floor and runs inside the house, recalling his words. Sushma comes out from Abhi and Pragya's room. Prachi collides with her and again runs, recalling Ranbir's words. Sushma is shocked to see Prachi's state and goes behind Prachi. Prachi locks the door. Sushma comes to the door. Rhea says Ranbir will get freed from Prachi today. Pallavi says not so easy. She will ask alimony from Ranbir. Rhea says how much will she ask and says we will give her whatever she demands. She says when you talk to Ranbir, how will he react? Vikram says marriage would happen when the divorce happens. He asks why are you both tensed? Pallavi says until when will we see our son in tension? Vikram asks about whom you are talking. Pallavi says I am talking about Ranbir. Vikram says Ranbir is doing great and says he has not just handled our company but took it to the top position. Vikram says he should have done this before but he couldn't due to that Prachi. He says before talking about his marriage with Rhea, you should talk to him about the divorce. He says if you talk to him directly about the marriage, then he will not reply positively. Rhea says we have started the divorce papers and we have sent them to Prachi. Vikram asks if Prachi had signed. Pallavi says Prachi will sign seeing Ranbir signs on it. Vikram asks Ranbir signed and says he? Pallavi says you want all the answers now. Vikram says, "You are telling me everything in installment." Pallavi says, "We thought to separate him from Prachi and then we'll talk to him about his marriage with Rhea." Pallavi says, "We have forged Ranbir's signature." Vikram says, "Ranbir's fake signatures?" Pallavi says, "Don't worry, nobody will know." She says Prachi will sign on it and then we'll show it to Ranbir. Vikram asks if Ranbir will not ask how his signature came on the papers. Rhea says Ranbir will not ask. He loves Prachi so much and when he sees the papers, then he will get angry on Prachi. Vikram says his anger will calm down and then he will ask how his signature came on the papers. Pallavi says I will tell him that he was drunk after party and he has signed on the papers. Vikram says you are lying to your son. Pallavi says we want to make that eclipse Prachi move away from his life and that is why I am ready to do anything. Vikram says I am ready to do anything for my son's happiness. Rhea thinks that it is said right, the wait fruit is sweet, and says they are doing as I want. She says once Prachi signs, then Ranbir will be mine. She smiles. Sushma asks Prachi to open the door. Prachi runs to the bathroom and stands under the shower. She cries badly. Thank you for watching my videos. Please don't forget to like this video, share it, and please subscribe to this channel for more updates. Thank you.